Welcome into a 7-round mock draft for the Seattle Seahawks, and this is something I'm really excited about because I do have some kind of strong feelings about what Seattle's doing and the moves they're making. I really love the direction Seattle's going in, or let me say this, I love the potential of the decision making that's happening with Mike McDonald kind of starting to rechurn the roster and turn it into something that I think he envisions for himself moving forward, and not just a shell of what the Pete Carroll era kind of put together. So moving on from a Geno Smith, who's an older guy, and I don't feel like good quarterback. I feel like he actually gets a lot more hate than he deserves. He's a good quarterback, but it didn't feel like that roster was really ready to compete with the Eagles or the 49ers. Well, not the 49ers now, they've kind of dismantled their own team, but the Lions, other top powerhouse teams in the NFC. I didn't feel like they were really super close to being incredibly competitive with those guys. Yeah, you can make the playoffs. Yeah, you're going to, have a good chance and maybe you get a shot. But even in your own division, it felt like the Rams were kind of making strides, for Arizona making strides. And I like this move of, like, I'm going to call it a soft rebuild. We're resetting the roster. We're resetting the culture and bringing in a new era. And I wanted to do a mock to kind of complement that and embrace that idea of, okay, this year, maybe more of a transition year. Maybe we're going to bring in some guys. Obviously, we like Sam Darnold. I think he can be a good quarterback. I think he's probably a small step down from Geno, but probably a lateral move, but you saved a good bit of money to do it. Move on from DK Metcalf. All right, I'm talking a lot, I know. Let's go ahead and just get into the mock, and I'll sprinkle in some more of my opinions about the Seattle Seahawks as we go forward. All right, I called it a soft rebuild for a reason. I do think I'm going to address the interior offensive line if I can. That's kind of the first part of this conversation that I need to talk about. Hate that I can't do both of them. Josh Simmons is there. I actually really like Josh Simmons in this range. That's definitely a conversation for me. I think there's 3 tackles in this class, or in this first round, that's really worthy, and then there's a couple guards. I like the guard out of Alabama. Looks like he already went. Okay, Booker and Banks are gone. Yeah, so Josh Simmons, he's the next name, and I do think there's a fall off for me. I think there's conversation about Zabel. I know there's a little bit of opinions about like a Josh Connerly, who's a little bit lower on this list, but I think I'm a little higher on him than that. Let's just look at some other spots. Again, I would really consider Matthew Golden. I don't know that I love trading away DK just to draft a wide receiver in the first round. I again, if I'm treating this like a soft rebuild, I'd rather, again, soft rebuild. The team's close. I think we're just retooling. I think offensive line's been an issue for the Seahawks forever, so I'm gonna value that a little bit more. But Matthew Golden definitely could go in this range, and I could see them doing that. I'm gonna ultimately go with Josh Simmons just because I like attacking the offensive line, and to me, this is a top 20 guy. I think he is. I think he will get drafted probably a little earlier than people expect. And then let's run it through. Again, I'm just going to reject all of these trades. And looking at it, just before we get into it, of course, these are 3 names that went right before the Seattle Seahawks. All 3 I would have really considered. I love all 3 of these names, to be honest with you, especially in this range. Like, these are all good second-round defensive linemen that I think would have added, especially JT. I think he fits that McDonald type of defense, like the Ravens style. I think he's just that bigger dude. Josh Connerly, that's a name that I like, and it's worth mentioning that we could have gone really take your pick of the edge defensive lineman in the first, and Josh Connerly would have been there in the second. Instead, I decided to go offense, and let's see where we're at with that. Oh, yeah, still some good names. Landon Jackson, TJ Sanders, but we don't need to go D-tackle. I'd probably rather go the edge. Really like Harrison. I'm blanking on his name, but 29 on your cornerback, 29 for Seattle. Not my favorite guy. I was watching a different player, and it was kind of some crossover film a couple weeks ago, and he was struggling. I'll put it that way. So Maxwell Harrison, interesting, smaller guy, explosive athlete. I'm not sure if that's a McDonald dude, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't know if that fits the type of guy that he would like. Let's see if there's other corners that we like. Darian Porter, I like a whole lot. This is a McDonald dude. I mean, he's I don't know how great of a tackler he is. He's a transfer. He's a wide receiver, transitioned over to corner, and he's 6'3", has the athletic profile you want to see. So that's conversation that I would definitely have. I think ultimately I'm going to just go Landon Jackson. I'm going to bolster that edge. I know you got the kid out of Auburn, Hall, a couple years ago in the second round, so we're grabbing another second-round edge that I think fills out that defensive line roster. I want to add a rotation for the Seattle Seahawks, so I'm thinking about that. And again, if I'm calling this a soft rebuild, I think you rebuild through the trenches. You build your team through the trenches, and I think adding that is a big factor. Oh, and that's on me. I didn't even realize that the Steelers second round pick that they sent. This is the DK Metcalf pick right here. They get 2 picks in the second. Gotta love that. Gotta love the back, basically back to back. And look, I kind of broke down my thought processes about adding defensive line. We like that. Now we kind of get to look around here. I'm gonna tell you right now that Darian Porter is gonna be on my list. Looking at offense, I gotta look at wide receiver here. And yeah, I look, I'm not in love with second round wide receivers. I'm not. I'll tell you right now, and you can check out. I've draft profiles for a lot of these guys already, and I'm gonna have draft profiles for basically every name you're seeing on this list right now at some point leading up to the draft, depending on when you're watching this. But I put Isaiah Bond out last week. He's just not going in the second round for me when I'm drafting. That's just not where I see him. I like a couple of these other names. Again, I would hesitate strongly to draft DK Metcalf's replacement with the same pick that was awarded for DK Metcalf. And none of these guys have anywhere close to the upside of DK Metcalf. So I'm going to lean away from that. Love the interior offensive line in this class. I will say there's a lot of guys. I think he could transition over to interior pretty well. And look, yeah, I'm going to think about that. I love the idea of adding another piece to that offensive line to help out your kind of a two-headed monster. I mean, Kenneth Walker is one of my favorite running backs in the league. I think he's top 3, top 4 talent-wise running back. I mean, I really think he's in that type of conversation. I think Seattle has had a subpar offensive line for years, and he hasn't really been able to show what he could ultimately do. You know, if he was running behind the Eagles' offensive line, it'd probably be a different story for how he's viewed in NFL circles, and that could be a little off. And then Charbonnet this past year really showed up and has kind of turned into a bigger piece. So I like. Connerly is a very, very interesting prospect to me. If we went defense, I do think I would ultimately go Porter here. I really like him in this range. I do think he can go second round, but I like some of the cornerbacks down the line as well. But yeah, ultimately I do think I'm gonna go back and address the offensive line, and it just gives you opportunities to get a little wild. And look, we have a lot of picks. The Seattle Seahawks also have another 3 compensatory picks that they're gonna get, and I don't know if that's updated at this point on this app, but it's definitely worth mentioning that's in the conversation. All right, here we are in the 3rd round. Okay, so let's look at the board here. We doubled up an offensive line. We took a Landon Jackson, and I'm going to tell you right now, in the 3rd round, I think there's a real chance that there's still some defensive linemen that I really like. That's the strength of this draft. The 2nd, 3rd, and probably into the 4th round of the edge defensive lineman guys, there's going to be a lot of like productive players that come out of that range. So it's going to be a conversation for me on those type of guys that we like. If we looked at edge specifically, I still like Jack Sawyer. I think Jack Sawyer's I'm a big fan of his. I haven't gotten to all these names. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you guys. I like Stewart. I don't think he's better than Sawyer. I don't agree with the rankings here on this, but I understand him in this kind of range probably. If you looked at D-tackle, which we don't need, I know we grabbed Leonard Williams, but I think that was a 1, maybe 2-year deal, so that's not a long-term answer, and we want to kind of take the approach of the Eagles. Like let's embody our draft around the best drafting football team in the NFL right now, which is the Eagles. they draft for needs 2 years down the line. So we can sit here and say, yeah, I like the starting defensive tackles right now, but if I look at this and I look at Shamir Turner, who can play all around that defensive line, I think he fits what McDonald would like. This is a name I really like for the Seattle Seahawks specifically. I think he has a really good chance of going in the second round. So this guy right here is a really interesting name for me, just because of his scheme versatility. I think he can do a lot of different things, and I think with the type of defense that McDonald runs, he's going to be asked to do a lot of different things, and he can kind of grow in that system. So that's a name that I really like. Looking at corner, just right off the top, there's just no names in this range that I'm going to love. Going to offensive line, and I just want to kind of quickly go through the options, because we're kind of getting to a spot where we're only going to have so many guys that are going to impact your team year one, right? And once we get into the 4th, 5th, 6th round, we're taking shots on guys, and we're probably getting guys that just aren't going to be super valuable down the line. So just looking at the offense as a whole, just the top names on this list, Gunnar Helm makes a lot of sense. I don't think we need tight end, obviously, but I like him a lot. I like him a lot in this range. The wide receivers, we do need to add a wide receiver. I'm aware of that, but we have more picks. We have the 92nd pick. We have the 137th pick. So we have more picks to make that happen. I think I'm going to take the guy that I just honestly feel fits the defense really well in a Shamir Turner. But I wanted to talk out some of the thought processes for us. This is where I start to think, like, we got to add somebody. We got to have another piece of wide receiver. Like, we have to have somebody, and I think this is the range where I would want the Seattle Seahawks to take a wide receiver. I could see it happening earlier. And again, this isn't a great wide receiver, because you take a wide receiver in the 3rd round in this class, he's not guaranteed to start. Last year, I would feel a lot better about it. I loved that wide receiver class last year. Unfortunately, it's a running back class, really, really damn good running back class, and we don't need running back. We might take a flyer or one late, but we just don't need one. Probably not going to go for another offensive lineman. I really like the guys that we got there. So it's really wide receiver if we go offense, and then if we went defense, I really wouldn't mind going corner. But again, we have the 137th pick. I'm kind of comfortable with any of these guys, and yeah, I think I'm going to end up going Jalen Royals here. I think he can fill that Tyler Lockett void a little bit. He's on the smaller side, but he's explosive. I really like him, and I'm a fan of his. This is a little early for me, but it's at the top of his range, I feel like. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And yeah, okay, I thought I clicked the wrong button for a second there. Let's look at the draft results. Man, we got a 4th round. Man, Seattle has a chance to really rack up. I'm super excited for Seattle's draft. And again, I look at it, I love these guys. I love these names. I think we got a lot of really impactful names, and we're running out of impact players. I think we kind of have to go corner. I really wanted to add a corner. I went into this draft thinking corner was going to be a piece. And like I said, I was comfortable with the names that were going to be available. Kind of between Tommy Hill and Mello Dotson. I think I don't know. Hill took a step back this past year. That always kind of scares you a little bit. Mello Dotson is explosive. I feel like he's a little smaller. He's okay, 6 foot 192. Yeah, I mean, okay, it's saying he has good length. I don't want to overthink it. I think, corner in this range, feel good about it. I think Tommy Hill just has a little bit more upside. I think he's a thicker person. Let me look again. He's 6 foot 213. So yeah, thicker. Got an extra 20 pounds on Mello Dotson. So I don't know. I feel like Seattle would want the more physical corner. So I'm going to go with that, but I don't have a great feel for that, and y'all let me know in the comments if that's just the dumbest thing you've ever seen. I don't know. All right, now we're getting to the range. Yeah, look, never going to bullshit you guys on this channel. I'm a draft guy. I absolutely love the draft. I spend every single bit of my free time studying the draft, making videos, one thing or another, especially this time of year. It's just nonstop for me. But I do have a full-time job, and I have a beautiful wife that I spend time with sometimes when duty calls. So I can't say that we're gonna get into the later part of the 5th round, and I'm gonna know every name. So just let's have that caveat. All right, well, Dylan Sampson's going in the 3rd round. First of all, like I'm gonna take Dylan Sampson here just because that's just incorrect, and we can just add a great player super late. Tyler So would be somebody I would think about in this range. We got 2 picks back to back in the 5th, so we're gonna take Dylan Sampson just because that's just not correct. I don't understand that ranking. I haven't done a draft profile on him. You can kind of check out my full thoughts on him, but huge tier gap between him and anybody else on the board, and by far the most explosive playmaker. So we're absolutely going to go that route there. Dylan Sampson, again, he's not going outside of the top 100 personally. It's a great it's a great running back class, so I could be wrong in that. You don't even need running back. You're just best player available. And what did I say about the Eagles? We don't know what's going to happen with Kenneth Walker in 2 years when he's ready for his contract. Are we going to pay a running back? I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but we're going to draft for needs here. Well, Quay Robinson, I really like him. You're saying that he's going to go 208. I don't agree with that. I'm gonna grab another edge. I think I'm gonna have to grab another edge. I would think about the quarterback. I don't look. He's a guy who's going to be a backup in the league. I just don't look at him as a guy who's going to change. Like, he's not a guy that I ever expect to become the future of your franchise. So if we just don't have a quarterback this year, I'm okay with that. I don't think we needed to draft a quarterback. It was definitely on my radar of possibilities, but yeah, I think I'm going to take the guy that I think has some really good upside. And look, you're taking a shot, and you could totally miss, but you don't lose your job if you miss in the 5th round. So we're fine with that. Let's go ahead and look. I don't think we're going to go D-line again. I think we could take a stab at a B.J. Adams out of UCF. I don't want to spend a ton of time worrying about it. Let's go Dante Thornton. Again, you're taking a stab on size and speed. I mean, this dude, I watched him live once, but yes, 6'4", 205 pounds. Does it have his 40? I don't think it has his 40. Yeah, he ran like a 4.4 at 6'4", 200. Like, I don't understand why he's not getting a little bit more love. Total project. You're not starting him year 1, but we're taking him and betting on the upside again. Again, we're just going to take a stab at a guy that I think has a chance to possibly do year 2, year 3 develop into a player. And I think he has real upside. I think he has real potential. But that's just my take, and I could totally be wrong on that. But again, you don't lose your job for missing on a guy in the 6th round. So let's take shots. Let's swing. And with the last pick, let's grab Shiloh Sanders. Why not? Just for fun. Last pick in the 7th round. It doesn't have the athletic profile of his some of his family members, but fun name, and a guy that I do think gets drafted. Ultimately, I do. And I wanted to help out that secondary, guys. I love this draft. This draft, because I did this raw. I did not prep this. I did not plan this. You can probably tell by watching this. If you made it this long, thank you so much. Like and subscribe. Looking at this, what did we do? We attacked the trenches. First 4 picks in this draft, all trenches. I believe in this. I think that's real. I think that's how you build a good football team. I am a big draft guy, and I love getting into the nuts and bolts of the players, but more than anything, I love team building, and I love breaking down the concepts and the thought processes that go around building out a team, all right? And we know a little bit about what Mike Macdonald wants to be. We saw what he had in Baltimore with the Ravens, and I can kind of picture the best case scenario for what Mike Macdonald wants to build. I think we have a lot of that with these picks. I really do. I look at Landon Jackson, a good edge. And again, the defensive line, I think you can go into the 2026 season or 2025 season, with the guys on your roster right now. But I wanted to add some names. So Landon Jackson, I really like out of Arkansas. We have Shamir Turner, who, again, like I said, I think he can play all over the defensive line. He's very scheme versatile. I'm shocked that he was still there in the third round. I don't think he will be ultimately when the draft comes, but I played it out. Had to add some playmakers at wide receiver. Had to. Jalen Royals is a name that I really like. You can check out my draft profile on him. Wanted to add a corner, and again, as we went through, I definitely considered corner at different spots. Just the way the draft board fell, this is kind of where it made the most sense to me. And then we get into those later picks where, look, you're just taking shots, okay? These are lottery picks. From 172 and on, you're just taking lottery picks. But I'm going to sit here and tell you, Dylan Sampson is in my top 6 running backs. Dylan Sampson is awesome, and I have no idea why he was available, and maybe that's a throwaway pick because he's not going to be available, and I know you don't need running back, obviously, but if you're Seattle and you're just drafting the best player available, that was by far the best player available at that spot, in my opinion. That's my take. So, yeah, just went with that. Quay Robinson, I like as a speed rusher with potential, good length, good size. I don't, again, another guy where it's like, I'm not sitting here saying he's going to be a difference maker year one, but 175, I don't think there's 174 guys that deserve to be drafted ahead of him. I think probably there's 100. There might be even 125, but that feels a little late for him. And then with those last couple picks, Dante Thornton, another player out of Tennessee. Look, overall, I'm really, really excited about what Seattle could do. I think this could be a blueprint for the concept of what Seattle wants to do. Are they going to go offense or defensive line with the first 4 picks? I don't know what I'm thinking about right now. Probably not realistically, but I don't hate it. I think that's a real thing that teams should do. I know I'm repeating myself, but I'm going to kind of stamp my stamp of approval on that and say, no, this is real. This is important. This is what good teams do or good organizations do when they're rebuilding, okay? And then from there, yeah, you fill out the roster from there with some guys that you hope can be impactful early on. All right, guys, that's what I have. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, all that good stuff. It means a whole lot to me. Draft Channel, 24/7, 365 days a year. We're small, but we're growing. We're getting there. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.